Hello, my name is David Duffy. I am a retired physician. I'm sharing with you some thoughts about healing. This is our presentation number 21. Today we're going to talk about genetic diseases. In 1872, an American doctor named George Huntington described a disease in which patients at an older age began twitching and moving around without control. They developed difficulty chewing, swallowing, and talking. They had an impairment in their mental function. They lost their self-control. They couldn't they couldn't control impulses. They became aggressive and impatient. They had anxiety and depression. And ultimately, they would deteriorate into like a vegetable, unable to move, and have to be placed in a nursing home with total care. The name of this disease was called Huntington's disease, and it was a devastating illness that really had no treatment. In 1993, research revealed the cause of this disease. There is a gene called the Huntington gene located on chromosome number 4. A normal protein from this gene is a very important part of the nervous system in the brain. We don't know exactly what it does. It may have to do with nerve conduction. And what they found was that a normal gene for this had a little chain of glutamine, a chain with multiple glutamine amino acids. And if it was normally less than 27. So if it's 27 in that chain, everything is fine. When the person had a gene with between 50 and 27, sometimes they got sick, other times they didn't. However, if the number of glutamines in this chain were over 50, they all got sick, and it seems that that extra chain would lead the protein to fold over and be misshapen, so that over a number of years, this protein would clump in the nerves and eventually damage the brain cells. And that it looks like the mutant protein interfered with the mitochondria, the power station that generates energy, and when it cannot stabilize, the cell gets subject to oxidation and destruction. So over many years, a person with this mutant gene will develop various symptoms of brain dysfunction, which we described. Okay. Now, there's another genetic disease that has to do with breast cancer. The gene BRCA is located on chromosome 17, and a mutant with that called BRCA1 is associated with a high incidence of breast cancer. A woman with that gene mutant 50% of those women with that mutant will have breast cancer by the age of 70. They also have a high incidence of ovarian cancer. There's another BRCA gene, number 2, found on chromosome 13 that has similar results. Not as high amount of cancer as BRCA1, but significant. It turns out that men that inherit that gene will have a higher incidence of prostate cancer. And people with those genes may also have melanoma, colon cancer, and pancreatic cancer. Okay. Okay, now, if a young woman has this gene in her body, what should she do? Should she, at an early age, prevent breast cancer by having a double mastectomy? Should a baby who has the Huntington's gene mutant be aborted? The answer from my point of view is no, 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 no. Life is precious. And we're not talking about dying in infancy. We're talking about a long life that can end with this problem. Now, when we talk about genes, we have known genes like those particular ones that are horrible, and you have a death sentence if you get it. Medicine loves statistics, and you have a chance of this and that and that. So if a person has a test and they don't have it, it sounds like, oh, well, I'm okay, you know. And that's not true either, because all of us have wonderful genes and horrible genes. It's all a mixture. We are complicated. It's not black and white. It's not that simple. We have, how are we going to prevent, if somebody has those genes or any bad genes, what should they do? Now, in the past, I have told you about the plant-based, whole food plant-based diet, which is an ideal. It's not exact. It's a concept that we apply as best we can. Even in nature, the cow is a vegetarian. The wolf is a carnivore. Even the tick on the deer, his whole diet is sucking the blood from the deer or other animals. So everybody has different nutritional needs, and it's complicated. So I believe that the best thing is for people to participate in their own health as much as possible. We're supposed to have free agency. We're supposed to have free will. We're supposed to choose for ourselves. And if we take an interest in our health, we have many things to do. We can be our own judge. How does that work? Okay. You really don't have to have a family history of some horrible disease to be motivated to do this. You take yourself, you've had a few ups and downs, you have certain limitations already defined. So what do? You should be your own advocate. You should be the leader of your own team. How do you do that? Well, under the circumstances of your life, where you live, what you can afford, what you like, begin to make choices and compare doing this with doing that, and which is better for you. make yourself do some research about what works best for your health. And what works best for my health is not going to be exactly what works for your health. And we're not competing. We're talking about having a person take an interest in making themselves better and acting upon that. Okay. It also has to do with our personalities. Are you optimistic, pessimistic? Are you sociable or antisocial? Are you easily angered? Are you depressed? Are you anxious? How do you approach life? Do you have purpose? Do you have faith? All of those are part of your health. And it's not just if you have an emotion, go to the psychiatrist. You need to take charge. You need to make decisions. If you're upset with somebody, you don't have to be angry. You can talk with them and work it out and forgive each other and move on. That is within your power. In order to learn how to do that, you need to make efforts to try it out, solve problems, get in charge of your life. And there are many people that can teach you things. You observe this one is doing this. Hey, will that work for you? And you try things out, you experiment. When you have a problem, what does your faith tell you? In the scriptures, we have examples of when the people obeyed God's commandments, they were protected. When they disobeyed, they got into trouble. They may have war, they may have losses. We need to discover for ourselves what are the principles that best serve you in your life. And you can't generalize. I mean, everything is individual. If you have a body that has problems, perhaps you can even pray about it, seek your own revelation, and then follow the wisdom that you discover. And in terms of medical research, we want to record that in our own notes and share it with the doctor. Because looking at this history of Huntington's disease or breast cancer, genetic caused breast cancer, we want to find out that over the years, when the person did this, the person with the gene minimized disease, it was late in life, they avoided symptoms, versus when they did this is what happened. We need the records of many people addressing this to accumulate and gather information so that we will have role models for how to be healthy and apply it in all aspects of our health. Now, what about having the disease? You have the quote curse of this mutant gene has affected you. How do we deal with that? Do you give up? Do you give in? People will seek to destroy themselves. That's not good. But part of suffering is hope. Now, let's take a person who is an alcoholic, and when they have been treated and have stopped drinking, they do well. They don't touch a drop anymore. They're doing fine. But if they give into it and relapse, then the unwanted effects, the disease can ruin their liver and they can die of cirrhosis. So even if a person is sick, even if a person has a neurologic deficit, even if a person has been operated on and has had cancer or chemotherapy or radiotherapy or whatever, what can you do at that point? We want to have hope. Now, many times the person who knew they should do something, knew that it was harming them to enjoy doing a certain thing, eating a certain way, taking risky behaviors, whatever, when they get sick, this is a very critical time in their life to learn from their experience. We have a situation where deep down inside, people know the truth, even if they won't admit it. And there are cases of spontaneous remission from cancer. Now, if you have a serious disease and you have been doing the wrong thing for a while, it's never too late to start doing that. And so we simplify our diet, we boost our faith, we seek help from our families and our friends. And yes, we are going to be in a suffering state. Yes, we cannot do everything for ourselves anymore. Yes, we're going to have treatments that are uncomfortable and painful, and we'd have to be taken to the doctor. We may need a wheelchair, whatever it is. We're going to suffer from the consequences of this problem, but we still can do something about it. We still can hope. We still can function in a certain way. Now, Stephen Hawking, the famous physicist from England, had a degenerative nerve disease. So he was in a wheelchair and he maybe could move his fingers and give some signals or something. But this brilliant mind who kind of takes the next step beyond Einstein and talks about the universe and cosmic issues, this little man who could hardly move had more in life to give. And even a person who lasts for a short time, how they end their life is going back to God. Can they feel that even if in the last couple months or weeks, they realized something, they applied something, they acted on their faith, they lived long enough to see their great-grandchildren or apologize to somebody they've hurt. They can wrap their life up in a positive way. Those are things that go unnoticed, and we should praise them and encourage them and be with them to help them endure and learn the lessons that God has given them. Now, many people are doing things that are harmful. They smoke, they drink, they swear, they're angry, they lose their temper, they use drugs, they do not exert self-discipline, and they depend more and more on taking pills rather than solving the problem. If the pain patient would do physical therapy and calm their nerves and have self-control and go less and less on the pain medicine, that would be a victory. Okay. If a person has received care from somebody, when a person is sick, when a person is in need, people, family members, and friends have a role in helping them, supporting them. Now, many people will be this kind of self-reliant, I don't need any help, I can do it myself. You know, it's very hard for them to accept help. It's very hard for them to admit they're sick and seek help. These are the kind of illnesses, terminal illnesses, that they go through, and it's quite an ordeal. When we are caring for our own health and set an example for others, these are the kind of patients that can benefit from this approach. We're not talking about magic medicine. We're not talking about Laetrile. Once I had a patient who had breast cancer, and she refused surgery, and she went to Mexico and did this and that to take this treatment and that treatment, and she ended up with metastatic breast cancer throughout all her bones. She in her sweet, stubborn way, she suffered more than necessary. What happens when we die? Is there life after death? What are we learning for this life? These are the kind of things that people with terminal illness face. We want to open the dialogue and be able to talk about these things and be able to encourage people to act, to seek a way to help themselves, and we can work with them, we can support them. Even if it's not going to have a consequence, the effort of helping yourself, doing things for yourself, receiving care, acting upon the love of others is a healing principle. Okay, that concludes my thoughts for today. And hold on one second. Yes, I had forgotten our next topic. Okay, next time we will talk about Alzheimer's disease and dementia. Until then, be well.